Hello all. Today we will discuss about the microservices architecture for the backend services. I am Darshak Prajapati, a technical lead, working as a technical lead in Sufalam Technologies. So before going further, we'll discuss about the Netflix because whenever discussing the microservice, we cannot ignore about the Netflix architecture for the microservices. And think I shouldn't. I don't think I should explain what is Netflix. Today, Netflix has over thousands of microservices, and each one is managing a separate part of the Netflix site. And the Netflix is the first company to have successfully migrated from the traditional monolithic architecture to a cloud-based microservices architecture. And in fact, Netflix implemented the architecture long before the term microservices was even introduced. And when the Netflix needs to be updated from the microservices, and in 2000s of the Netflix experienced a major database corruption, and for more than 3 days the Netflix weren't able to ship the DVDs and the streaming services to their members. So they have realized to migrate it to the net microservices to avoid the entire application downtime. Now, what is the microservices actually? And before understanding that, this is the actual architecture of the Netflix microservices. In the right hand, you can see the complex architecture. These are the actual microservices are connected to each other. And the left hand side, the simplest architecture of microservice that are created by the Netflix. This is the first user endpoint and the backend data access layers. Now let's discuss about what is microservices. So there is one principle of single responsibility by the Robert C. Martin. Gather together those things that change for the same reason and separate those things that change for the different reasons. So the microservice are a small, independent and loosely coupled code or your business logic. Each service is a separate code base which can be managed by a small development team. Service can be deployed independently because there is a simple small code or business logic part of an entire application. A team can update an existing service without rebuilding or redeveloping an entire application. So microservice supports the polyglot programming. For example, service don't need to be set the same technology stack. If you build an entire application in a Laravel framework of the PHP, so the microservice don't need to be follow the same Laravel. You can be created in a Python Django framework or a Node.js. But if you don't follow the microservice, in the next feature you need to be follow your previous architecture only. And the microservice architecture was developed to overcome the challenges of difficulties posed by the monolithic architecture. Now, what is monolithic architecture? Let's see. The left-hand side is a monolithic architecture, the basic architecture we all are using for the same projects. The first one layer is the client layer. This client requests to a business logic through the API. API is send data to get the data from the data access layer and the database, and they revert the data to the client. But in microservice architecture, the client is same, the database is same. The middleware is changed for the business logic. Microservices are introduced at the level of the business logic and data access layer. There can be separate microservices and the separate database, which are internally connected. Now, how does it actually work? As I say, the client can use the user interface to generate a request. At the same time, one or microservices are connected to each other through API gateway and database that can perform the requested task. And it will be easy for the larger complex enterprises to work as a hub. the actual architecture, how the client requests the API endpoint, and how microservices are connected to the API endpoint and the database access layers. These are the key benefits of using a microservices. The first one is the agility. It enables smaller, focused agile teams for the development. If the team is smaller, then the productivity is the highest. The teams will be organized based on the boundaries of microservices. It can be deployed independently. It's easier to manage the bug fixes and the feature releases. You can update a service without redeploying the entire application or a zero downtime. There is no dependency on the one tech stack. You can pick any technology for a microservices. For the entire application, you can use many of the technologies you want. It's a small focus team. So if a microservice should be a small enough that a single feature team can build, test, and deploy. Better fault isolation. If one microservice fails, then all other will likely continue to work. The entire application will not be down. It will increase the developer productivity. I will explain in the next image. The small code base. Enterprise can afford to experiment with new processes, algorithms, business logic, and so on. So it enables enterprises to do disruptive innovation by offering the agility, ability to experiment and fail test. The main key benefit of microservices is it's a largely decoupled or a loosely coupled from within, which can be easily built, altered, and scaled. The faster deployment, obviously, because it's a small piece of units. So every component should be stacked in the nature. So how it will increase the developer's productivity? In the left hand side, monolithic architecture is the front view of the monolithic architecture. Here you can see there are 5 developer teams which are handling entire application, and the entire application is divided into small modules which are in square brackets. So it's a complex to handle a one dev team to that specific module, because it will affect the entire application. And on the other hand, microservices, you can see there are 5 developer teams and 5 modules are divided to that teams only. So if the dev team needs to monitor, build, and test only one microservice or one module, so it will be easy for that team also, and for the entire project also. Now, when to use the microservices? So when you want to move your monolithic application to accommodate scalability, agility, manageability, and delivery speed, you need to rewrite the legacy applications in today's programming language or tech stack to keep up the modern day business requirements and solution. You cannot migrate your entire legacy application to a new modern language. You need to use the microservices to step by step migrate your entire application. When you are standalone business application or modules, that have to be reused across the diverse channels. Some good examples are login services, search option, catalog management, authentication, etc. If you are building a highly agile application for the enterprises, then it's demand the speed of delivery and features, innovations, and many more. Now the tech giants that are using the microservices. The first one is obviously Netflix, and the company is considering among the pioneers of the world of microservices. Another are Amazon, Uber, and many more. Amazon is using the microservice for the catalog management, customer management, vendors management, orders, pricing, invoices, and Uber is managing for the customers, drivers management, cabs management. You can get in touch with us to switch from the monolithic architecture to a microservice architecture. Feel free to raise your query with our Facebook, LinkedIn, GitHub, YouTube, and Twitter pages. You can get back to us on sufalamtechnologies.com. We will get back to you soon. Thank you.